What's up in War Eagle War Report family? You got Ike Jones here. We have reached the finality of our countdown. We are going from number 8 all the way to number 1 in the PFF top players for Auburn in the 2025 season. Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop. It is Monday, August the 25th. We are finally into football season. It is finally game week, and we are finalizing our PFF countdown right here on the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, brought to you by the good folks over at Rogue Shop, America's #1 online dispensary. Whether you have sleep, stress, pain, or anxiety relief that you need, RogueShop.com has the remedy. Use code REPORT to get 15% off at America's #1 online dispensary. That is the Rogue Shop. Let's get over here into the conversation today, and we are counting down the final countdown here for the top 8 players on Auburn's team, returning according to PFF. And we are going to start that countdown today at number 8 with Jay Crawford, the defensive back in his sophomore season with Auburn. Statistically, Jay Crawford played a lot of snaps last season. Really only came on the second half of the year. 503 snaps, 76.6 overall, according to PFF. On run defense, he was a 65.3. Tackling, 47.6. That one is something that definitely needs to improve there. In coverage, 77.5. Jay Crawford is an absolute blanket out there. And we got to find a good nickname for Jay Crawford for what he's going to be doing out there to defenses. So we're definitely looking forward to seeing him back on the field this year. When you look at the penalties, only 3 penalties. So a physical corner, but is not getting penalized a bunch when he's out there. A lot more snaps, a lot more opportunities for that sort of thing. But in the 2024 season, Jay Crawford, he really had 3 games where he struggled in terms of tackles. When you're looking at the tackling number here, it was a Georgia game, didn't do great there. Let's see how many missed tackles. He had 2 missed tackles in that game, 2 missed tackles in the Louisiana Monroe game, and a missed tackle versus Texas A&M. So those are the games where he's going to have to those are the things he's going to have to figure out how to do a little bit better. Again, total snaps, he didn't really start playing heavy snaps until the Oklahoma game. So that's 3 games into the season. Wasn't quite half. A little bit more than half of the season when you go back and look at it. Then he didn't really play the full game versus Alabama. So, he has definitely some opportunities to bolster the snaps this season, as well as the productivity. He had 1 interception on the season. Pass breakups, he had 5 of them. So definitely had a good season for a freshman out there, really just kind of learning it, but able to go out there and compete. He's got ideal size. He's 5'11", so it's not super tall, but he does have a good wingspan, 181 pounds, the ability to come up and be physical against the run. And that's the place, again, where he's going to need to be able to be better for Auburn, more consistent, because he is going to be a lockdown type of corner. But when they're running those plays along the outside, you want to make sure you have a corner he can come and seal that and make sure that those are not going for longer plays than necessary. And then if they're going to leave him out there on the island, he has to be a guy who can play that off coverage a little bit and then come up and make the tackle in the open field, so those don't turn into longer plays. That's something, when we're looking at this Baylor game coming up, Baylor's going to spread you out. They're going to get into some of those pass concepts that are going to try to exploit some zone coverages. They're going to try to find soft spots, and they're going to try to get you with some now routes, some little quick glance routes. So you need to be able to play in coverage and then come up, rally, and tackle. Jay Crawford's going to be important to that for Auburn this coming season. Looking forward to seeing what he provides to that defense on the outside in a full season as the projected starter there at the right and cornerback position. Let's move on to number 7 on the list. Newcomer to the team this year, the transfer over from Sam Houston, and that is our guy, Chris Murray. Chris Murray coming in at number 7 overall, according to the PFF. His overall rating is 76.8, 451 snaps last year for Sam Houston, 71.6 on the run defense, 61.8 tackling, 75.0 in pressure, and a 60 in coverage. Now, I don't think that he's going to be a guy that's going to be asked to cover a lot in this defense, but because he is playing that outside position, that jack, that that edge, all the different names that they have out there for those positions. He is going to be a guy maybe that they might be doing some sort of zone blitzing concept where he's looking like he's going to blitz and then he's going to peel back off of that blitz and drop into some sort of zone coverage. So he's going to be asked to do those sorts of things for Auburn this coming up year, but he's not going to be a guy that I think is going to be asked to do that a lot. So definitely wants to be able to be better in coverage for sure, because it's going to be a responsibility that he'll have. But I think he's going to be a sub package guy mostly on obvious passing situations. Let him go up there, let him get after the passer, coming from that buck position in this DJ Durkin defense. So looking forward to seeing what Chris Murray is able to provide in his first year as an SEC contributor. Of course, you don't know how to project forward what happens from Sam Houston State. When we looked at the film, so those of you Green Name Game, if you want to go out and take a look at that film for Sam from Sam Houston State, what we have for Chris Murray, that's available for you right now in the Watch the Film playlist. Didn't show a litany of pass rush moves. It was really more just a bull rush type of thing. He's a guy, let's take a look at what he brings to the table. 6'3", 256. So he's got a decent amount of size on him. So he's not going to have to do a whole lot to get to a strength and size standpoint here for the SEC, but I'm not sure the bull rush is going to work effectively as often as it needs to, which will make him effective at corralling the passer. But is he going to have the speed to really get around the edge? You didn't really see a lot of dip and rip from him. You didn't see a secondary pass rush move. It was really just bowling guys over in that league. So the question is he going to be able to translate that over into the SEC on a down by down basis? Yet to be seen. But again, I do expect him to be a sub package guy coming in obvious passing downs to try to go out there and get after the quarterback. We'll move on to number 6 here on the list, and that is a guy I'm super high on, Caleb Harris. Again, another sophomore there in the defensive backfield for Auburn, who's going to be playing in his second full season. Had a lot of snaps last year, 608, 78.0 overall. Run defense, he was an 80.2. Tackling, he was an 85.3. Pressure rating is 68.1, and coverage 74.3. Caleb Harris is just a guy who's consistent, man. When he goes out there and you turn on the film for him, you see a guy who's where he needs to be. He's making plays consistently when he has the opportunity out there in front of him. As you see, his tackling rating is solid for the entirety of the season. Really only had 2 games that were not in the green. If you remember me talking about this earlier in the rating system, that were not in the green for tackling. There was like a light green situation with Louisiana Monroe, and then he had 2 missed tackles in that Bama game. So 4 total missed tackles on the season, 1 versus Louisiana Monroe, 1 versus Texas A&M, and 2 in that Alabama game. But because he was racking up so many tackles, had 39 tackles on the season, only 4 missed tackles, he's tackling the vast majority of people that are there in front of him that are available to be tackled last year. Now, he didn't have any interceptions. He had an opportunity at 1 last season, but he had 3 pass breakups, only 1 touchdown scored against him when he was in coverage. Caleb Harris, a solid contributor, a guy I think that's kind of getting looked over in some of these rankings of players coming out before the season, a guy that just kind of goes out there and handles his business. Looking forward to seeing a full season for him in his sophomore campaign. 6'1", 201, so another guy who's got the size necessary to play down in the box, and he's going to be doing a lot of that at that safety position for Auburn this season. He's going to be expected to really take it to that next level in his second year under DJ Durkin. Moving on with the last of the first half of this, and we will get to the running back, Durell Robinson. Durell Robinson, the transfer over from UConn, is the highest rated running back coming back in this running back room. Again, playing for UConn last season, he was actually in a system where he was splitting time. UConn played 2 and 3 backs at a time sometimes, so they ran a lot of 21, even some 31 personnel out there with multiple running backs. They shuffled those running backs consistently, so 395 snaps for him last season, 78.1 overall. His run grade of 84.7, fumble 74.8, and pass blocking of 80.1. So you've heard me talk a lot about what I believe is the number one guy on the depth chart in that running back room, and that is Damari Alston, the returning senior for Auburn. But this Durell Robinson guy is going to be a guy who can be a hammer that will come out there. He can be that was what he was when I watched the film there for UConn. He was a guy who could move it in short yardage, not necessarily a home run guy, but a solid guy as far as finding his gaps and where he wanted to be able to fit in the scheme that they were running there with some of the zone stuff that they were doing. The zone concepts are going to be things that he's going to be doing at Auburn. And was good in pass pro. His run protection, his run blocking wasn't really great. I don't know how many times he's going to be asked to come in and run block, but it's going to happen, right? If you're going to be having speed sweep situations, they may ask him to be a run stuffer, either shutting down the back end, unblocked guy as they slant the zone in the direction of the sweep, or if they're going to leave a guy unblocked off of the edge and they're going to be running some sort of quarterback keep or quarterback sweep, something like that, you're going to be asking your running backs to go out there and run block. I didn't see a lot of great film on him from that, but he is another guy who I would consider to be solid overall, working his way back from an injury. Didn't get a long spring with Auburn, but he is a full go right now for the fall. And he's someone who is going to bring some leadership. And he doesn't have, at least in his history, that issue that Damari Alston does have, which is fumbling. You saw his rating there, sure-handed guy. He can do all the things necessary. So he is a quality pickup to add to that running back room that already had those talented guys in Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. So you get another third experienced back that can come in and be a solid contributor for you. I like what they added there with him. Another quick break here as we go in and just tell you, again, thank you for the folks that are watching this. Make sure you like the video while we're at here at the halfway point. But go visit rogueshop.com. Use code RAPPORT there when you do that. Again, 15% off at America's #1 online dispensary is the Rogue Shop. But let's get straight back into the conversation because we are talking PFF grades for Auburn's team going into 2025. Returning guys, of course, the only ones that have ratings. And we will wind our countdown here on the bottom half here, starting with number 4. And that's Tyler Johnson, the offensive tackle there for Auburn, coming in at number 4. Only 92 snaps last season, so not a lot of contribution. He was doing some shuffling in and out at the tackle position, but a 78.3 overall rating when he was in there, 87.3 rating on the run block. Pass blocking is where he had his issues, which is why that and some injury concerns was why he didn't play more snaps for Auburn last season at 34.7, but was not penalized during his time in those 92 snaps. But that's going to be the biggest thing for Tyler Johnson. Is he going to be able to pick up the pass rush from those dynamic edge rushers that are going to be coming out there headhunting for Jackson Arnold consistently? Can Tyler Johnson be counted on to be that good, solid backup in case one of those tackles goes down? Because right now I do have him slated as a backup tackle, and there's some guys who will swing and play in front of Tyler Johnson if they need him to. So he's really going to be a second or third option there at the tackle position, but he's got the ideal size for you to be able to go out there and be productive from the tackle position. And I was actually really high on him coming out of high school. I thought he was going to be a solid contributor. I still think that he has the ability to do that for Auburn. 6'6", 232 is what he is listed at right now. And he's a guy who is going to be asked to do some work this season if Mason Murphy doesn't work out. If for some reason, Xavier Chaplin doesn't work out, or one of those guys is injured, you still have Too Tall out there on the outside as well. You can swing Dylan Wade to the outside. So you've got options at tackle, but Tyler Johnson needs to be a guy that factors into that. And you want to be able to put him in with full confidence that he'll be able to pick up blitzes. He'll be able to know what his blocking assignments are. Good in the run game as far as the rating, needs to work on the passing stuff according to PFF. Let's move on down the line and we will get to number 3. And that is also a transfer. So another transfer here in our top 8. That's the guy, James Ash from Florida A&M University. FAMU checking in right there at number 3. James Ash, 590 snaps last year at Florida A&M, 79.1 overall, 82.8 on run defense, 72.8 in his tackling, 65.2 in the pressure, and 62.0 in coverage. Now, James Ash did not do a lot of dropping back as an interior defensive lineman, but every now and then you might try to do, some some wonky stuff where you drop the D tackle back, but he's going to be a guy who's going to be asked to anchor a defensive unit there up front against the run. As you saw the run number there, he's at 82.8 for the run. He is a big body guy right there in the middle that you want to just plant there and take up space and blockers. And that is what he's going to be asked to do at 6'3", 302 for Auburn there. Take up space, eat up blockers. For FAMU, he was a guy who played a lot of snaps. He's one of the guys who's talked about looking forward to not having to play as many snaps so he can continue to be fresh for every rep that he's out there. And he was asked to do a lot for that FAMU team out there last season over his career at FAMU. So at Florida A&M, he played a lot of snaps. I'm looking at his snap total here. Started at 157 that freshman season, but then went up to 304 and then 590 this last year, increasing the number of snaps that he had year over year. He's not going to have that many snaps at Auburn, so hopefully that pays dividend in his ability to play fresher throughout the game because he'll have more rotational opportunities, and he's really going to be counted on early downs to be a run stuffer there in the middle of that Auburn defense. Coming up next on our countdown is number 2 on the list, and that is Champ Anthony. Champ Anthony, defensive back, originally a JUCO guy, was at Auburn last season. Of course, he had famously that injury during the Arkansas game that he had the injured leg, and that was it for him for that season after Arkansas very early in the year. But he was a guy who was showing promise before he had the injury. When we look at the numbers here from PFF from our number 2 guy, he had 126 snaps in just those first couple of games, 80.9 rating, 70.9 in the run defense, 73.7 tackling, 66.4 pressure, and 81.4 coverage. Champ Anthony knew where he needed to be, and he was in position in all the times that he was out there on the field. Looking forward to seeing Champ have a bounce back season this year coming back from the injury. But the Pirate is ready to do some work this year. He's one of those guys that when you add him to the mix with Kayan Lee and with a Jay Crawford and with a Caleb Harris that you already have as solidified guys in your rotation, when you add a Champ Anthony into that mix, not to mention some of the guys that came in from the transfer portal like Rayshawn Pleasant or Rayon Strader, you have a formidable defensive back room that will allow some rotations from those guys as well and not feel like you're going to have a significant drop-off. Physical corner. Yeah, I mean, listen, the hit that he made before he went out in that Arkansas game was as clean and as much of a football play as you want to see from a guy playing defensive back out there. That's the kind of guy you want patrolling your secondary, being in position and going out there playing with physicality and bringing an edge to your defense. Looking forward to seeing Champ Anthony bounce back this season and be able to contribute in a real way for the Auburn Tigers. When we look at some of the other things that he does well, let me pull that up here on PFF. He is a guy last year who only had one missed tackle. That was during the New Mexico game, and was not penalized at all in the 4 games in which he saw duty. But again, his action last year was cut short, but was having a phenomenal game there versus Arkansas before the injury. He was a 91.8 in that game in those 12 snaps. I mean, listen, if you remember the snaps that he played in that game, he was absolutely crucial out there, making it happen early in that game. And it was a devastating thing to see him go down in that. But again, he was solid in the other 3 games in which he played. Looking forward to seeing a full season of Champ Anthony out there with the Auburn Tigers this year. He had 4 pass breakups, 3 of them during that Arkansas game. Again, just a solid contributor during that small time that he was out there. Hopefully he's ready to come and make a major contribution this year as a rotational piece in there for that very loaded defensive backfield. All right, we are rounding the corner here to the end. And of course, number 1 on this list is the guy who is number 1 on a lot of draft boards out there as far as defensive lineman is concerned, and that is Keldric Faulk, coming in now at number 1, the highest rated PFF returner for the Auburn defense. Auburn team in all, 591 snaps last year for Keldric Faulk. 83.8 was his PFF rating, 83.4 versus run, 74.3 tackling, and 72.5 as a pressure rating. rating there for Keldric Faulk. He was a menace all over the field. Early in the season, he felt unblockable, but you definitely saw as the season progressed and his injuries started to mount up, he just wasn't as effective. When you look at his PFF ratings over the season, though, he finished strong versus Alabama with an 80.2 overall rating in that game. You look at some of the statistics that you have for him. Worst game tackling wise was versus New Mexico. Actually, it was Missouri was his worst game tackling wise. But once you got into that middle portion of the season, Keldric Faulk he had the shoulder stuff that was happening for him. He was in and out of the lineup with some of those things. So you really saw the fatigue start to set in for him. Hopefully, he will not have to be in that situation again. You love to see Keldric Faulk below 500 snaps this year, both from the fact that the offense isn't going to be out there as much, and he's having other guys that can come in and rotate for him, and he's able to be fresher towards the end of the season. He had, according to PFF, 9 sacks last year with 5 QB hits and 31 overall hurries. That is a phenomenal rate of getting to the quarterback last year. 45 total pressures there. He had 35 total tackles, 11 assisted tackles, 4 missed tackles on the season. 1 of those versus Arkansas, 1 versus Georgia, 1 versus Missouri, and 1 versus Vandy. So again, Keldric Faulk, solid defensive guy. He's going to be counted on to be a leader along this defensive front and a guy who teams are going to come in and say, we have to figure out how to stop this guy. Again, he was an absolute menace early in the season. And he's going to be a guy that's going to be counted on to, if you're going to leave him single covered, then you're going to be paying as an offense lining up against him. Looking forward to seeing what this season for Keldric Faulk looks like. Whether or not he comes back for another year, yet to be seen, but it's unlikely. But Keldric Faulk, again, coming in at our #1 rated returning player on the PFF countdown. That's it, man. We've made it all the way through the top 40. Hopefully you guys have gotten some good information from this stuff. Before you get out of here today, make sure that you go ahead and like this video, share the content with someone, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So much more great content coming your way in terms of what we're going to be doing for this season and for what we're going to be doing to break down this Baylor matchup in week 1 coming up this Friday. That's it. I'm out of here. Until the next time. And as always, War Eagle.